MC Eiht, how you doing?
Scragging.
Not much. Welcome to the show. It's an honor. WSJU Radio, St. John's University, Sports and Hip Hop with DJ m.A.A.d.
Good looking.
Congrats on the new album.
Good looking, fam.
Lessons. I think it's, in my opinion, I think it's album of the year.
Good looking. I appreciate that. Not too many people on that page, but hey, that's good. I like to hear support, so that's all good.
Because it's real hip hop.
Well, that's what we tried to do. You know what I'm saying? We tried to take it back to the element of hip hop. So, I think it's a decent project. You know what I'm saying?
Primo had a lot of input. I heard that you sent the songs to him. What did he like most about it?
Well, Primo's a hip hop head himself, so just that I can reach out to certain cats and try to bring back that authentic hip hop feel, especially the West Coast, and then being able to incorporate East Coast cats like Conway, Dave, Havoc, Talib. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what he appreciated most about the project. That I stick to the roots of shit. And then I went back to, add scratching on the record and all that type of stuff. Something that's really not done by DJs today. So I basically, that was one of my real things I want to bring to the table. I want to get some of that authentic DJ feel. So that's why I had Primo cutting on it.
And it was fire and it brought back the essence. Scratching is a major component of real hip hop and DJing and hip hop culture. Why isn't it in the mainstream today, in your opinion?
That's because a lot of stuff is commercialized. A lot of dudes don't like to, they don't like to claim the rendition of old school hip hop. They think it's played out or whatever. So me being from that class, I think that is very valuable for you to incorporate DJs into your music. I mean, the DJs were an essential part of hip hop in the beginning. And to my opinion, they still are. But, unfortunately, the music of today doesn't include a lot of DJing and scratching and mixing or whatever. So 755 Washington.
Yeah, and you could hear the scratching on it. Primo did an excellent job on the records. What was it like putting that record together with Conway? Was that the first time you met him?
I knew Conway. I've been following some of their music, the whole Griselda camp. I had listened to a lot of Benny at first, and then I got put on Conway. So just, just,
oh yeah, we're good.
Just for the fact that Primo had got down with him on a song called Loyalty. I think he did with him last year for a Payday project. So I hit up Primo and told him, I really liked his craft. I thought he was vicious on the mic. So Primo gave me that hookup. I hit him up, and then he hit me back and was like, mad respect. He one of the favorites. One of the forefathers of hip hop. So he was like, man, say nothing. Just send me a song. So I sent him a cut. And I think maybe about 3 days later, he sent it back, and the rest was history.
And it came out to be a fire track. People are calling it the best song on the album. Working with Dave East, what was it like working with him? I call him the king of New York because he represents that real lyricism out here, in my opinion.
Oh, Dave was another dude that I had been following, on the basis of what I like as far as hip-hop artists are concerned. He was one of them cats that I thought was, following the tradition of that raw, uncut New York rap. So same thing. He was out here on the West Coast working on some music, and some of my people hit me up, said he was in the studio. So we exchanged numbers right then and there. And then by the time he got back to New York, I hit him, told him I was working on the project Lessons, and same thing. Just a mutual respect, basically, for what I have been doing in hip hop and the craft of what I've been speaking on and what I was trying to represent from the day I started grabbing the mic. So that was one of the things that interests me in Dave getting on the song. Slid him a song, and it was simple too. He got right back with me. So I feel the love is always there from true hip hop artists who want to give credit to those cats that came before them, and some of their music is patterned after that. So I try to reach out to dudes like that. You know what I'm saying?
Someone from being an artist from the West Coast, you studied a lot of the East Coast MCs. Who were some of the East Coast MCs that you really studied the most?
I mean, I grew up listening to. I can go back as far as you want to say like Treacherous Three, and I listened to a lot of. I listened to a lot of Schoolie D, Treacherous Three. I mean, I listened to a lot of early LL and Beastie Boys, EPMD, Coogee Rap. I listened to a lot of Heavy D, Gangstar. You name it, I basically listened to it. Ultramagnetic MCs, Furious Five. I mean, Sugar Hill Gang, if you want to put it on that commercial of shit. But Fat Boys, Curtis Blow. Uh, I grew up off of what East Coast hip hop. I mean, to me, East Coast hip hop was the raw, uncut funk that got me interested in wanting to write lyrics. And even though, you know, we had cats like Toddy T, Mixmaster Spade, Easy, what have you, you know, our foundational hip hop was based on the struggle. And with New York cats, man, even though a lot of these dudes come from the same stepping stones, their music was music, you know what I'm saying? So it made me pattern a lot of my stuff after them. Like me and Chill as young ages, we wanted to be EPMD, you know, which was one of the reasons why we came up with Compton's Most Wanted, because we wanted to transition ourselves after two of the dudes that we thought was the hardest group dudes at the time, the hardest duo, which was EPMD. So I grew up I just grew up with a love and fascination for hip hop, as far as East Coast is concerned, and I think that what's given me the ability to connect with both coasts, because you know you'll hear an MC8 project and it'll have some East Coast influence, whether I got Primo on there or whether I reach out to somebody from the East Coast to get down on the record. I just like to pay homage to what I looked at as, you know, the beginning and the foundational steps for hip hop for all of us.
Here's where it gets messed up. I'll ask the newer artists who are they inspired by, and they're trap artists. They'll tell me Jay-Z, they'll tell me Nas, Biggie, but they don't sound like them. They're doing the mumble rap, they're doing the trap. I don't understand why there really isn't too many that are in the mainstream that is following the lead of what you did and all the other rappers from that era.
Well, a lot of these young cats don't, you know, their whole style has changed over to hip hop to what is irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? And for them to say that they listen to the Jeezys or the Nas's is basically because when they were young, that's what was popular at the time. I mean, Young Jeezy was cracking. I mean, Nas has always been cracking, whatever, but it's a generational gap within our music. You know what I'm saying? Because we came from we came from struggle and poverty rap and stuff like that. And then you got the hustle rap who came back around with, you know, 50 and Jeezy and T.I. But then in between that and what happens now is that we got a lot of kids who grew up in the suburbs who wanting to be, you know, but they don't have foundation of hip hop and music because they grew up so young and music had took a turn. So what we have left is the P.O. popping, Draco, sipping lean type of rappers, because that's their introduction to hip hop, you know. And they don't want to go back and pay homage to the foundation of it because they feel it's old and it's bullshit. So thus we have the big generational gap of hip hop, if you ask me.
Mhm. Being a legend of hip hop, especially on the West Coast, do you ever see the sound that you continue to make and made back in the day ever coming back to that mainstream and favorited spotlight?
Um, I mean, all we can do is try to keep uh, what we know true as far as hip hop concerned. Um, you have artists like myself, and there's a few artists out there who try to stick to the path and stick to the pattern of doing what we've known and what has created us and given us that fan base. Now, trying to convince rap to go back to them golden era years it's kind of hard because, like I said, every day you got new artists coming out, and a lot of artists don't like to pay homage to what was created or what got them the ability to start making music. You know, they forget about that. They look at, hey, it's all about YouTube, SoundCloud, Instagram, and that type of shit. So it would be nice for it to go back to the era of just good music and including the DJs and making substances in your music and what you talk about. But thus you have the younger generation. And I feel as long as generation controls the other half of hip hop, then it's a struggle climb. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. And I think the hip hop that you hear on the radio today is very gentrified. I had a conversation with Tamel, who was Rakim's son, who's also an MC. He was telling me how it's just become gentrified, and rap comes from pain and struggle. You don't hear that in the songs on the radio. It's all about the money they make, the jewelry, the cars. You don't hear the real struggle.
Well, no, that's because a lot of them didn't come from struggle. You know, a lot of these new rappers probably grew up in the suburbs or a lot of pretend music, whatever. So they don't know the struggle in rap. You know, they don't know the racial profiling, what we had to go through with the police and parents being low, and just to try to find a way to get yourself out of bull. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of kids didn't grow up with that. Like I got a 16-year-old son. He doesn't have no idea the struggle rap. Everything's party, have fun. You know, pop a pill, get some girls, blah blah. He don't know the struggle rap. He grew up in the suburbs, so he has no idea what struggle rap is. You know, and that's just unfortunate that we don't have a lot of artists who wants to pay homage to, like I said, the NWAs or the CMWs or whatever. To them, it's like old music, and they don't want to hear that shit anymore. So that's, like I said again, that's the problem that it is for me. And hoping that it'll come back to that status of just making good music and being on the strength of, it's good foundational hip hop that we all can learn something from. It just don't happen. And, we would like it. That's why you got cats like me who are still around trying to make music and leave our contribution to this thing called hip hop.
Mm-hmm. Is someone on the West Coast, a legend on the West Coast, who impresses you right now on the West Coast? That's in the youth generation.
As far as his music, period, I mean, on the West Coast, I still listen to Nipsey. I'm listening to Jay Stone. I'm listening to. I listen to a little M.A.A.d.
Mm-hmm.
Who else is on the West Coast? As far as, I mean, really, that's it. I'm not really. I mean, if you ask me, I listen to a lot of old school shit. I listen to a lot of Scarface, Ghetto Boys, old school Ice Cube, LL Cool J, Eric B. Rakim. That's what I listen to. But I try to give the youngsters a chance as far as the West Coast is concerned. So those are dudes I listen to. I listen to Roddy Ricch. I listen, like I said, Jay Stone, those M.A.A.d, because those are cats that I feel that's on my type of music and on my era with it. So there's a few cats I give a listen.
Lessons is available on all music platforms. Make sure you go download it and support it. What's the significance of the title Lessons? Why did you choose that for the name of this album?
Basically, just to show people the transition of hip hop that I've been through over the years since hip hop started. I've been from the easy era to the dance music era with the Egyptian Lover and stuff like that, to the gangster era with Easy and King T and Ice T and Compton's Most Wanted, to the Tupac era and, the Alcoholics and Exhibit. So it's a lot of music that basically we have represented over the years. And Lessons is basically my story of the transition of hip hop over the last couple of decades. What I've seen as far as music, what I've learned, the lessons we've been taught, not just by music, but from my parents, you know, just from living in Compton, seeing certain things that some people will never see. So that gives me the ability to write and speak on different subjects. So Lessons is just a project like that. You know, a few stories to tell you about way back when, and a few stories to tell you what's on the way and what we're looking forward to as far as we're trying to continue this music thing.
And I heard that it took you a year to create this, and it shows. A lot of times the music that you hear on the radio is made in a day, probably in an hour, and it's thrown out there, and it's already up on the top 100 charts. And it's just a shame that the real hip hop just isn't given that recognition anymore. Thank God there's DJs out there that still play that. I know Shade 45, they're always playing the real hip hop. They're always making sure it's still going on. But as a young DJ, I got to keep that going too.
Yeah, it's up to us. It's up to people like you, you know, who still love authentic hip hop, who love that dope era of hip hop, who don't want to get caught up in the masses of payola and playing what's popular every 20 seconds. You know, that just goes to show that you have your own opinion and your own brain to know what is classic and what is good material and what's just here because people want to be forced on it. So I appreciate people like yourself who reaching out and who's just trying to keep authentic hip hop alive. Feel me?
Because I'll have the conversation with people and they're like, you got to have balance. And I said, yeah, well, the real hip hop, there's no balance right now. It's all one sound taking over. And that's when I say, I got to keep that real hip hop alive. I got to keep it going.
You just got to keep what you're doing alive. And like I said, you can't compete with a lot of these corporations when they want to do what they do. But it's the small voices and it's the small voices and the continuance of trying to push real hip hop. And that's all we need, you know, even if it's just a few of us that's here to let people know about real hip hop and the dope era of hip hop and where it started and where it came from, then we doing what we need to do.
What do you love most about your new album, Lessons, compared to all of your other past works, whether it's We Come Strapped, Music to Drive By? What do you feel as though you did the best on this project?
Basically just being comfortable and being able to do what I want to do and not be worried about trying to follow trends or try to be the popular whatever the popular song is or try to attract like that. Lessons was a project that I put together on my pace and on my fans' pace of what they wanted to hear from MC Eiht as far as that authentic hip hop is concerned from my point of view. So putting Lessons together, that's what it was all about. It was all about trying to give the fans something that they could appreciate, knowing something that I've always came with and never tried to switch up.
Mm-hmm. My favorite off of the album is Bluue Wave, and I'm looking forward to that visual dropping.
Yeah, the visual will be dropping the Bluue Wave next week. So yeah, we're gonna be shooting a couple of more videos. Man, just try to keep in touch and keep people seeing that real hip hop is still here to stay, regardless of what else is played on the radio or whatever the popular thing is. We just here to make good music from what we know and for more fans and for people that we connect with. So that's how we came up with Lessons. And I think, like I said, it's a good project. It's for the true hip hop fan. Bluue Wave will be dropping next week, and there you go.
Mm-hmm. Be Real. You also did the opening song on there, Get Money Man. That was a great opening, and I love how you flipped it. I just want to kill him, man. You flipped it.
With creations, man, that's going to be interesting for people. You know what I'm saying? And when you can connect with the right individuals and you got the right music, it's always going to go big. So my people be real. I said true friends in this game.
That was just a great opener. Like I said before, just Be Real, another legend in this game, Cypress Hill. If people aren't tuned into them, they should definitely go check out their album. Temples of Boom is my favorite from them. And just keeping this real hip hop alive. Are you doing anything in lieu of performances? Because you're very interactive with social media, especially as an old school hip hop artist. Are you doing anything as far as virtual performances go?
we're gonna be doing some performances, you know, doing some empty room performances off the record. Like I said, I'm dropping these videos right now. Starting at the end of this month, we're gonna start doing a couple of virtual performances, you know, with empty room concerts, you know, just to give people a connection, you know, show them that we still here trying to do good music. So that's what we on.
How was the transition? Because this is an interesting question. Being someone that had to promote their records basically through their label and word of mouth, now you have social media. How was the transition on social media to start promoting your records and gaining a fan base?
I mean, it's cool. I mean, you connect with people on social media. It's a way for people in faraway places that always appreciate your music to be able to get in touch. You know, I get people from Germany to Africa to Serbia to Japan to Australia. So it's a good way for people to connect to you when, you know, they're not right in your presence or stay right down the street or see you at the malls or the shopping centers or whatever. So social media is good because it allows you to connect with people all over the world. And for fans all over the world who appreciate your music, it's a good thing.
I want to get into a little bit of Menace II Society. How did you get the role AWACS in Menace II Society?
Just knowing the Hughes brothers. I mean, they knew me, they knew the music, they liked the music, so that's what it was, man. They offered me the part. I went down there and read for it, and the rest was history. Just that California connection, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Also did voiceover in Grand Theft Auto, Ryder, San Andreas. How was that experience, and how'd you get that opportunity?
I had already messed with Rockstar Games on a project, so I got a call from DJ Pooh. Shout out DJ Pooh, who was working with Rockstar, and they were looking for a character to voice over on a video game. And you know, I guess my voice they felt was distinctive from Menace II Society and doing other things. So they called me up and asked me would I come down and try it. I went to New York for like a week, and we knocked it out, and the rest is history.
Did you gain more profit off of voiceovers or actually being in movies? What makes more money?
It all depends on what your role is. It all depends on what percentages you're giving off of said products. You know, video games are popular nowadays. You know, especially with the Grand Theft Auto series, real popular. So it helps when you have songs and voiceovers on a project. But then you know, movies can work in a better in a different direction anyway, because you're getting paid on scale, or you could be getting a piece of the movie on the long run. So it all depends on how your agent want to work it out, what they feel is profitable.
You were also on the legendary track Mad City, of course, Good Kid from Good Kid, Mad City, Kendrick Lamar. I know you didn't have a relationship with Kendrick before that happened. It was someone, a relative of his, I believe, reached out to you to get on the track with them. Is that right?
Right.
What was it like making that track with him in the studio? Because he just blew up at that time, right then and there with that album.
Well, Kendrick, you know, he was a young cat in the streets, Compton, trying to get his identity out. He had the Section 80 independent album. So a lot of people knew where he was coming from. And just from that, you know, Dre was interested in what he was doing. So Dre and Punch and Top, they hooked up, got him signed up. So when it was time to work on his album, you know, they didn't want to overcrowd the record with too many guest appearances because Kendrick was a dude who could speak for himself. So they handpicked a couple of people who they thought would work on the project. And to my knowledge, only 3 people ended up on the record, which was me, Drake, and I think
Mary J. Blige.
Right. Them was the only 3 people that were allowed to be on the record. So like it was an honor, you know, because everybody know Kendrick. Kendrick's a vocal, expressive person, and for the fact that shout out TDE and Punch and Top and Dre Aftermath by letting Compton veteran, a legend, to participate on the project. you know, because the project was large. It was extra large. So it helped introduce me to a brand new younger audience. So that was very appreciated.
You gained more of a younger audience, and this is important that I would love to know about. Since the release of the new album, Lessons, is there younger, you know, some younger people tuning in at all?
There's a lot of young people tuning in, you know. You see the demographics every day when I pull up the sheets and I see, you know, the age differences of people who are listening compared to when it was 5, 10 years ago. We got a lot of 18 to 25 people who are listening to Lessons, but then we still got the 45 to 50, you know, and then I mean, our age demographic works like, I mean, we're getting about 20 to 25% of each age group listening to the project. So that's pretty good. You know, it's not just focused on one age group. We got youngsters, we got the middle age, and then we got a few oldies too that's bumping it. So, like I said, very appreciative.
Mhm. Who's someone that you would love to collaborate in the future that you haven't worked with?
Ah, my thing about collaborations
I know
with
you're not
people,
big on it.
yeah, I'm really not big on collaborations. I try to reach out to people that I got respect for,
Mhm.
and if they got respect for me, they get back with me. I really don't like reaching out to people because some people sometimes think they're too big for whatever, and it goes beyond that. It goes beyond the respect, and it start going to, you know, how much money you gonna pay me. So when it comes to that, I really don't try to fuck with too many people. But if there's somebody that I'm interested in, like I could always go do another song with Scarface, or I could always do another song with Primo, or you know, with Cube, or you know, with Exhibit, or if I go to the East Coast, you know, I would love to do a song with EPMD as a group, or you know, I've done songs with Pete Rock, you know, with Primo, with Bump John, with Freddie Fox. You know, I got a lot of respect from New York dudes. I would love to do a song with Rakim. So you know, those are dudes that I grew up with that I respected as just far as hip hop is concerned. So them is dudes that I would try to reach out to first.
Getting close with Primo, what makes him so great at what he does as a pioneer and hip hop producer? Because we see it from the outside and we hear it through his music, but really when you're in that studio with him making that track, what's it like that he's just one of the greatest to ever do it?
Um, Primo is just a dude who knows hip hop and he knows music, and not just in hip hop. He's just a musical dude. So him being able to capture sounds that you don't have to give your input to is kind of nice to me to know that producers are already on the same page as you and they know your style, they've studied your style, and they've been around you as just as far as a friend or whatever is concerned. So being able to work with Primo, a dude who I takes after myself, who's just a real work ethic, real, you know, just on point dude. Um, it's just it's good to be around somebody with as much hip hop knowledge as Primo and who can give his input to your songs as whether that he produced the beat or whether he scratched on it or just to mix it and give your input. I've always appreciated that from Primo because he's one of the biggest producers in hip hop. He's been around the block once or twice, so he would never steer you wrong with the advice of doing a project or a record or whatever. He's the first one to tell you, you know, this shouldn't work or you should change this or blah, blah, blah. So that's what working with Primo is. Real professional. Even though we homies to the end, he's not afraid to go professional and go business with you. And that's what I like about him.
Fun fact that I learned about was that your first performance, your show was with Gangstar and a few other artists.
Right. Yeah. That's how I first met Primo. Back in the days, we did a concert together in Anaheim, California, and that was the first time we crossed paths, and that was decades ago. So just to be able to stay in touch with Primo over all these years, it's magnificent. You know what I'm saying? You build relationships with cats like that, and they stay around forever if the situation is true. And we've always been true. We've always been able to tell each other real advice, and so that's what I look at.
Mm-hmm. A big thing in hip hop history was the East Coast West Coast beef. You had a lot of ties to the East Coast, and you're from the West Coast. So where were you in the middle of all that?
I wasn't. I had nothing to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't no. That was a death row. That was a death row bad boy thing, and a
Yeah.
couple of stragglers on the outside who wanted to get noticed. But for the most part, I had nothing to do with that. I consider myself not to even be a part of that. So when people say East Coast, West Coast beef, I tell them they have to really go in depth because it wasn't California versus New York. It
Yeah.
was a couple record labels versus each other. You get me? And everybody wanted everybody wanted their shine or their spot to be that big. That's what it was. But I never considered it that.
Yeah, that's what I figured because I've heard stories. I had Cool Keith on my show, which was interesting at the time, was that he saw Tupac and Biggie hanging out in a club, he told me, during when that whole beef between them was going on. So I really don't know what was happening at that time.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't get crossed up in it. I don't know what it was about. So I tended to stay out of it. It is what it is, but that wasn't something that I included myself in. So we kind of backed up off of that.
And I think it was for the better. You had a lot of ties to the East Coast and West Coast and just a dominant artist all around. Production on the album was 10 out of 10. Like I said before, the old school hip hop artists always keep it real with the production. In your mind, why hasn't the production of boom bap carried over? Like you hear trap is the mainstream, but you just don't see any young producers making boom bap beats.
Because young producers think boom bap sucks because it's associated with old school artists. That's why. And young artists don't want any transition of what old school niggas did. They don't like it. So there you have them making trap beats, and trap is everything. That's what that is. Trap is everything. So old young producers don't want to associate. That's just it.
Young producers just don't even want to associate. That's insane to me because I feel as though that the boom bap is the main sound of hip hop. When I think of hip hop, I think of boom bap. I don't think it's a trap beat. I just don't think of a trap beat when I think of hip hop.
Yeah, well, that's the a lot of our music is controlled now by youngsters and YouTube fame and Instagram fame or SoundCloud fame. So they like I say again, youngsters don't want to transition to what made hip hop in the first place. They think the sound is played out, it's too old, and they don't want to have nothing to do with it.
I hope it changes. I know I'm gonna be always promoting the real hip hop, but I do see it eventually changing. I want to see that trend on Instagram because Instagram is a big thing nowadays with the rappers getting the most recognition and how many views you get on World Star. There just has to be a trend of actual rappers. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I hear you, fam.
Yeah. It's
So,
just,
yeah,
you just need to catch that trend on Instagram and social media of the real hip hop artists out there to get that buzz like the trap artists always do. If we can get that going somehow on World Star and then people start seeing it more often, then you could possibly have a balance.
what's correct? Still ain't here yet? Yep, I'm out here.
That's the main thing.
For sure, fam.
MC Eiht, is there anything else that you'd like to tell my audience here tonight?
No, just tell them, that new project is out. Go get that new project, Lessons. We're working on some new stuff right now. That Bluue Wave video will be dropping next week, too. Y'all stay tuned.
No doubt. MC, I want to thank you for coming on my show. I had a great time. I'd love to have you back whenever you drop a new album in the future.
For sure. I'll holler at you in a minute.
No doubt. MC Eiht, I want you to take care and stay safe.
You too. Jill.
Thank you.